Hey girls, so you've already heard from me once today, but I wanted to go over with you the things that you're going to be doing in social studies. You're going to be taking a look at your Birth of Russia notes that you were supposed to finish for homework, and I'm going to go over that with you in just a minute. And then you're going to be taking your quiz in groups on the Byzantine Empire and Russia. And so Ms. Burgess will be putting you in groups that I left for her to assign to you. You will work on that newsletter today in class, and then you will also have class the next time that you have social studies to work on that packet. And then your homework tonight is going to be some vocabulary that you're going to do on the spread of Islam and the Middle East. So that's going to be your homework for tonight, and she'll explain that to you later in class. I'm going to go ahead now and take a look at these notes with you. So if Miss Burgess needs to pause the movie for you to grab these notes, go for it. And we'll go over them together. So number 1 was describe the geography of early Russia. And the answer that I was looking for is mountains, plains, swamps, rivers, grasslands, seas, surrounding all the borders. Basically, their empire had a really good supply of food. Farmers were not poor because they had what they needed and were able to sell and trade throughout the empire. And then you were supposed to use the map for number 2, the map on the Vikings. It was the first map that was provided for you. And the answer there, if I were to look at the 5 themes of geography, is human and environment interaction. And so basically they used ships to sail along the rivers throughout the eastern part of the country, Eastern Europe, in order to attack and take control of other empires. Number 3, besides the east, what was the other basic direction taken by the Vikings in their Eastern European invasions? Why do you think they chose to invade in that direction? South was the answer because they were simply following the river. They were going to look for any civilization that was along the river. But also the Byzantine Empire was south. And we all know that the Byzantine Empire was once part of Eastern Rome. And we know that Eastern Rome was not stable because of their split and all of the chaos that ensued at the end of the empire. So that is the answer to number 3. Number 4, who were the Slavs and the Vikings? Give details about each of these. This was on the front page of your packet if you go back and read. The Slavs were inhabitants of the land that we now know today as Russia. They lived in the forest, very rugged group of people. The Vikings were adventurers that came from the north, specifically Western Europe, so the land that we know today as England and even Germany, Poland, some of those Western Europe countries. Vikings, we know, remember they sailed ships to get to wherever they needed to go, and that's what they're famous for. Number 5, how is the primary chronicle important to the Russians? Girls, basically that was just a recording of the history of Russia, just a book, if you will, that was written by monks. And if you remember, monks are men who were Christians, and they devoted their life to following Jesus. So they were not married, and they lived together in small groups. Number 6, how did Yaroslav's decision to divide his realm among his sons help cause Kiev's decline? Because the brothers could not get along, they were constantly fighting, and because of that, they could never make a decision on who was going to rule the land. And this fighting disrupted trade, it disrupted the country, the civilization, and it caused a lot of chaos for the civilization of Kiev. Number 7, what main demands did the Mongols make on their Russian subjects? They demanded massive amounts of obedience and tribute. They wanted to be remembered, and they wanted to be repaid for their service. Number 8, how did Ivan III lead the Russians to their independence from the Mongols? Basically, he just challenged the Mongols by not paying. He didn't listen to what it was that they had to say to him. Number 9, compare and contrast in the space below the Vikings and the Mongols. Give multiple examples for each. I know a lot of you went into a lot more detail than this. You drew Venn diagrams. I saw some of your work before I left you last week. But these are some of the basic things that I was looking for you to write down. The Vikings traveled by boat. The Mongols traveled by foot. Vikings were able to cover more area because they traveled by boat. They traveled quicker. The Vikings conquered Eastern and Southern Europe, and the Mongols conquered the Vikings' territory. So the Mongols kind of came after the Vikings. And both of them conquered many places. They were both vicious and cruel. They did whatever they could to take over the civilizations and the lands that they wanted to conquer. Thus the fall of the Byzantine Empire, and we talked about that last week. And then number 10, how would you compare the birth of Russia to other civilizations we've studied this year? Give examples of similarities and differences. I gave you one here. Actually two. Russia is similar to the birth of Rome in terms of settlement and in comparison to Greece. And then Greece was established as a democracy. Russia started as an empire. And Russia and Rome had legends of how they were started. So you didn't really get into much of that as you were reading, but it did mention briefly that Russia had legends as to how they started as a civilization. So I hope this kind of gave you a little bit of closure and more information about the fall of the Byzantine Empire and kind of help you put together that area that we've talked about, which is present-day Turkey, and the split of the Roman Empire into Eastern Rome, and then it became the Byzantine Empire, and then it fell, and then this week into next week we're going to be talking about the establishment of the Ottoman Turks and the Islamic religion and the people that have settled there that are currently there today. So that is what you need to know about Eastern Rome. So now you're going to be working in your groups, like I said, on your newsletters, and again, your homework is to work on your vocabulary. So I hope you have a great afternoon, and you will be hearing from me tomorrow.